Welcome, everybody. My name is E.R. Anderson. I'm the Executive Director of Charis Circle, and Charis Circle is the nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books and More. And Charis Books and More is the new school store partner for Agnes College. We are really honored to be presenting this story hour today in conjunction with Agnes College. And I'm joined today by Dr. Robiaun Charles, who is the Vice President for College Advancement at Agnes College. She assumed that position in August of 2015, and in that role, she works to maximize philanthropic support for the college's strategic goals from alumni and oversees alumni and parent relations. We are really thrilled to have Dr. Charles here today because she's going to be in conversation with one of her oldest college friends who has written a book that we're really, really excited about and is the reason that many of y'all are here today. So Sili Recio has been calling herself a writer since she won a trophy in a poetry contest in the 6th grade. She's an Afro-Dominican storyteller, disruptor, and mommy. Sili earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from Rollins College, which is where they met. And she entered the world of social media via her blog in 2010. And has never looked back. She lives in Florida with her daughter, the Frog Princess, and tries not to pass on her love of cafe con leche to her daughter. She is failing. You can visit her website at silirecio.com, and you can buy her books directly from Charis Books today. So there's 2 ways you can do that. You can click this teal button at the bottom of your screen, and we would love for you to do that. That will take you directly to the English version. And if you would prefer the Spanish version, that is directly available on this link in the chat. We'd love for folks, if you're watching from Atlanta, if you have an Agnes affiliation, shout that out in the chat. If you're watching from around the world, we know we have some folks registered from Miami. Say hi. We'd love to see where folks are. And yeah, so thank you so much for being here, both of you. I'm gonna turn it over to Robiaun and let's get this party started.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ER. Greatly appreciate your support with this today. And a special thanks to the Gay Johnson McDougall Center for Global Diversity and Inclusion at Agnes College. So I am absolutely thrilled to be here this morning with someone who is not only a dear friend, but who I affectionately call my bestie. Sili, how long have we known each other? Get the answer right.
Oh, hold on, because now I have to do math. Like, how old am I versus we've known each other for more than half of our lives.
More than half of that is correct. We've known each other.
I will not provide ages, right? More than half of our lives. That's like enough.
Yes. So over 2 decades, I'll just say more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
We've known each other. We met on the campus of Rollins College and have just continued to grow deep in our friendship and sisterhood, which is so very important. And so, bestie, here you are to talk about your book. You have written a book. You are a published author. I'm just so proud of you, just so incredibly proud of you. How do you feel?
I have been over the moon, and I've just, I'm excited to be here. You've continued to talk about this amazing bookstore, in your backyard, and I'm jealous that I haven't had a chance to visit yet. And, but I'm happy to be here and be able to participate in this way and to get to meet the community that you've been talking about for so long.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you do that as well. And so I know that we could go on forever chatting. We've done that already within the last couple of weeks and talking about your book. But I know that people are really here to actually hear your book and to learn more from you. So let's get started. If you're okay with it, I would love for you to pick up your book, and I invite you to read it to the audience that's here today.
I will do that. I can do that. I just wanted to show you your niece's artwork behind me. She needed to have a little something, so you might not see the whole thing. She was she charged me like a Twix bar to so I have to say that before, I know she's gonna ask me if I said something about it. So
well, I have to say that that is beautiful. So just so everyone knows, the Frog Princess, Sili's daughter, is my niecey. So that is beautiful work. Beautiful work.
So here it is, and I hope you all can see this. I'm gonna kind of back up a little bit so that we can see all of. I can try to show all of the artwork as I read it. Also, this is a pet peeve of mine. I like to take off book covers when I'm reading. Let's see. If Dominican were a color, it would be the sunset in the sky, blazing red and burning bright. The shade of cinnamon in your cocoa, the drums beating so fast, they drive you loco. My grandma's mahogany skin, honey brown eyes, my other grandma's yellow tint, just like mine. If Dominican were a color, it would be the shades of orange in the sunrise's hue, the Haitian black on my Dominican back. The green tints that carry the palm tree shades, the memories in your head that never fade. The neutral browns that color our lips, the café con leche that everyone sips. If Dominican were a color, it'd be merengue hips swaying when I walk, the chatter of neighbors strutting as they talk. It's the way my words shape in my mouth, the color they might not know in the South. It would be the hopscotch from my niñez and counting jacks from 1 to 10. It'd be the curls and kinks that blend my hair, the color of charcoal mixed with the sun's glare. If Dominican were a color, it'd be the roar of the ocean in the deep of night, with the moon beaming down rays of sheer delight. It'd be the maiz coming up amarillo with green. It'd be the blue-black you only see in a dream. There wouldn't be a palette that could hold it all. It's the seasons put together. Summer, winter, spring, and fall. And there you have it. All the colors and all the beauty and all of the love of being Dominican. BR, I think you're muted.
Yes, you're. Okay. So I get to ask some questions. Thank you so much for reading that, Sili. I know the book. I have my book right here, which I've read. But if it's okay, I'd like to ask you just a couple questions, maybe a few questions. So, how did you decide to write this book? I know that you've been writing since our days at Rollins College on Mills Lawn. So how did you come to write this particular book?
I think, so this, I originally wrote a poem, and it was an adult poem with the same title. And so I wrote it eons ago, and I shared it a few years back. And, I shared it on the blog, and then I had shared it on social. And I remember that Deneen Milner, who is the publisher of the book, came in, and I think she had like one sentence, and it was, I believe it said, "This is the book," right? And so she had been encouraging me, and we had been talking about writing a children's book, but I wasn't really sure, you know, what it was going to be. And so all of a sudden it was like, "This is the book." And I went in, and, you know, when Deneen tells you that, Deneen is like the fairy godmother of, you know, of books. And so when Deneen tells you something like that, you like stand up and pay attention. So I think I had the first draft of this book done that night. You know, I was so excited when she said it, and it just sparked that creativity. And I was like, oh, okay, let's make this a kid's book. And so that's how it came to be.
That's fantastic. And something that really grabs me, and I'm sure it grabs others about the book, are the words and the beautiful illustrations that align so well with the words, really bringing your words to life. Can you tell us about the illustrator and how this came to be?
I can't say enough about Brianna. She is just a gift. I don't even have words for her. The way that she was able to just literally paint my words, you know, on the canvas. I'm still in awe. I'll still open the book up. Like, I actually almost stopped in the middle of it to say something about like the sunset, because I saw a sunset the other night and it looked exactly like, you know, what she had painted. She is from Trinidad and Tobago. She lives there. And so I think that a lot of what she brought was the fact that she knew all of the shades that I was talking about, that she was aware of, you know, of all of these colors that I was writing about, because she lives in the Caribbean as well. So I think that certainly helped. And just, you know, her eye for being able to just bring to life, you know, words is, I need to like sit down and actually come up with new words to say about her, other than she's amazing.
I concur. Again, it's just beautiful, incredibly beautiful. So we talked about the Frog Princess as, you know, as my niece, and my daughter is your niecey. And you may recall a story that I shared with you several years ago, and it happened to Kimmy when she was in kindergarten, where she was essentially called out at school for the color of her skin, and she did not understand what was happening, and it was devastating to me as a parent. I had anticipated having conversations with her about race and racism, but it happened much sooner than I thought, because of the experience that she had in kindergarten. And I share that because as we talked about it, we talked about how important it is for representation. Representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
Your book, I think, is an incredible example of how different skin tones can be represented. Will you share with us why it was important for you to have specifically Dominican representation in literature, as well as talk about in children's literature, especially, as well as speak to the importance of having the different skin tones represented in your book?
Sure. So, you know, it's interesting because unfortunately, I think that our girls have had very similar experiences at very similar ages. So, you know, my daughter had the same thing around the same age. And it was, you know, she was actually called black and ugly in school. And so, and she, you know, in a very literal sense, even though we had talked about race and we had talked about, you know, all of these things, at that age, you're like, I'm brown. What are you talking, you know, that, and that's like, that was her response. And she didn't know until, and of course, like you, I'm sitting here like, what's happening? But from very early on, I knew that we were going to have this discussion. I made sure that she understood that, you know, her family makeup and how everyone might look different, but we were all, you know, the same as far as, you know, race is concerned, as we talked about that. So that was important for me. And it was important for me to show that and showcase that with the diaspora, specifically around, you know, in the Dominican Republic, because I always get, you don't look Dominican, right? And so then it becomes like, well, what does Dominican look like?
That's right.
You know, and it's back to, and every time I speak to, especially to Afro-Dominicans, they tell me the same thing, that people, you know, will other them right away because they have this idea of what Dominican is. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that people could see what Dominican actually looked like within the context of the diaspora, which for me, that was the biggest thing as well, making sure that I censor the diaspora. The book is about Dominican Republic, but I also feel like if you change Dominican to Jamaican, that it would still apply. A lot of the context would still apply, especially when you're looking at the illustrations, right? Some of the words might be different. You know, some of the nuances will you know, there'll be nuance in changes with customs, but ideally, it was important for me to be able to say, this is the Dominican Republic, and we are part of the diaspora, and these are all the different ways that we can look and still be, you know, Dominican and still be in the diaspora.
That's great. And so what is your hope, or what are your hopes for children who read this book? What is it that you want them to walk away or take away after reading this book?
You know, one of the hardest things, and I'm going to try to talk about it without tearing up, because I have gotten so many messages of adults coming into my inboxes saying, this is the book that I needed as a child. Mm-hmm. And saying, you know, I feel seen in this book. So it's really interesting, because whenever I speak about the children's book, I always talk about the adults, because it also feels like this is a way to heal all of these adults that are now parents as well, that understand it, that feel it, that get it, but that have never seen it, you know, and they're teaching their kids about this topic now. And they're teaching their kids about the diaspora and about being proud of who they are, being proud of their Blackness. But it also feels like they needed a balm before they moved forward. So to a certain extent, for the adults, for me, this is a way, just a nod to them that, hey, I see you and we've seen you, and I know that you've always existed. And I'm proud of you, because a lot of them have really broken the cycle that we've seen of colorism, or are trying to break the cycle of colorism, and, you know, all the things that come up with that. So first, I think with the adults, and second, I want kids to be able to see themselves. I want all the children to be able to see themselves. And, you know, I just hope that it brings a level of joy into their lives, and that it brings a level of pride about being part of the diaspora as they move forward in life.
Joy and pride, such incredible words, and really important words when you think about children being able to navigate the world that we live in, with everything that it brings. So thank you for that. Certainly invite everyone who's out there watching to pop questions into the question box. Sili, I know, will be more than happy to answer questions that you may have. I have another question in the meantime. One of the and you know this already, this will not be a surprise to you. One of the pieces that really struck me in the book was when you talk about the kinks and curls of hair. Can you talk? Will you share with us how that came to be?
Sure. My hair was relaxed at age 4 because, and it wasn't even my mom that relaxed my hair. It was like a cousin who I was left with, and they didn't want to deal with it, right? And I could tell you a list of things that, my hair was called, a list of things that I was called because of my hair. I didn't wear, this, in college, my hair was like straight. I always had, I had this crazy roller routine. I'm still like dealing with PTSD from the rollers. And it was such a tie. I never realized how much stress that was, because my hair had to look a certain way. Otherwise, even if I didn't think it was a problem, having to deal with what other people said and how other people addressed me was hard. So hair was a big thing for me growing up. I didn't start wearing my hair curly until I was in my late 20s. And even then there was a level of education, even like for my mom, we had to have this whole discussion when I was like going to work one day and my hair was curly. And, she just made the comment like that, she thought it looks better straight. And really the idea is that, and we know this from, Sybil, my friend wrote this whole entire thesis around, hair in the diaspora, and the fact that people will make assumptions about, your income level, your education, your, religion based on what your hair looks like. And so there was education. There's always been education internally within the family, and hair has been a huge part of that, and my hair has like changed textures in the last 5 years too. But when my daughter was born and when we realized that, oh my gosh, she has like 3 heads of hair growing out of her hair, right? It was just like all over the place and beautiful. And it was my first time having to deal with natural hair from that age because I have no experience with it, right? And I remember sitting with her and, combing her hair, and literally I would just talk the entire time, and I would tell her how beautiful it was, how good it felt, how great it smelled, because I never got that. And there were times that I would get so sad doing that because I missed out on that whole part, but it was so important for me. And a lot of times people are like, well, it's just hair. When you are othered by anything in your life, and when you are made to feel like the thing that is natural to you is somehow unnatural or wrong, it's hard. So I really wanted to make sure that I focused on that, and I showed. It was like one of my favorite images from the book, and I thought Brianna just caught it, perfectly. I know that Denise and I, like, when we saw it, we were just oohing and eyeing over the whole thing. We were so excited to see it because it just, I think, captured it perfectly.
And it is captured perfectly, and it's the antithesis of being othered. And when you, going back to your words, when you said you want children who read this book and adults, I picked that up, and adults as well, to leave feeling joy and pride, having joy and pride about who you are from top to bottom, from head to toe, including your hair, the kinks and the curls is a part of that. So thank you so much. So I'm going to do, no, you were going to say something?
Oh, yes. So we had a request to read.
That's what I'm going to do. Yes, that was from Rafa. I'm going to do a shout out to Rafa, who's on faculty at Agnes College. And yes, Rafa, see that you would like for Sili to read from the Spanish text. So she's already on.
I suspected someone might ask, so I was ready. So yes, if it is okay, I will read from the Spanish text. It's been a while since I've read in Spanish, y'all. Y'all gonna make me like pull out my español. Here we go. Si Quisqueya fuera un color, sería la puesta del sol iluminando el cielo en tonos de rojo. El matiz de la canela en tu chocolate, los tambores y el despojo. Los ojos de mi abuela Matilde, color miel con piel de caoba. El tinte amarillo de mi abuela María, parecido al mío, como aceite de jojoba. Si Quisqueya fuera un color, sería los tonos azules en el matiz del amanecer. La negritud de Haití, que nunca va a desaparecer. El tinte verde que llevan las sombras de las palmeras, los recuerdos que no tienen fronteras. El café con leche que tantos disfrutan y los marrones de labios que besos reclutan. Si Quisqueya fuera un color, sería las caderas merengueras que bailan cuando camino, la charla constante que siempre encuentras con el vecino. La forma en que mi boca pronuncia mis palabras, el color que sin saber siempre buscabas. Sería el trucano de mi niñez, sería contar los jacks del 1 al 10. Sería los rizos que entremezclan en mi cabello, el color del carbón reunido con el sol, brillante y bello. Si Quisqueya fuera un color, sería el rugido que se oye en las profundidades del mar, con los rayos de la luna haciendo un lindo par. Sería el maíz entonado en el atardecer, sería el negro azul que solo en un sueño puedes reconocer. No habría una paleta que pudiera contenerlo todo. Es las estaciones del año, verano, invierno, primavera y otoño. ¡Tarán! That was it en español. Si Quisqueya fuera un color. And I use the word Quisqueya. Quisqueya is the name of the island, the native name of the island. So that's why I used that.
Beautiful. Here are some of the comments. My God, it's even more beautiful in Spanish. Brava, gorgeous, so lovely. That was incredible, Sili. Thank you.
And I think that was my first time reading it out loud in Spanish.
Well, I'm sure there'll be many more times after that reading for you to be asked to read it in Spanish, to read the Spanish version. So what's your next project? What's next for you?
So first of all, I think we might have a question, but while I answer that, I'm working on a few things. I have a couple of ideas. Your niece told me a story a while back, and I took notes while she did it, and I wrote a book about it. So I'm gonna put Deneen on the spot. So that's the next project. I just haven't talked to Deneen about it. Hi, Deneen. We have to talk about it. But it's really around a child's perspective on grief. She gave me a story. So I lost my mom in 2011, and we all carry the grief as adults, and we don't know what that feels like. But to hear her thoughts about what that was, we've been very open with her about death and grief and all that. But it was beautiful because she basically started, we have these conversations, and she calls them the nighttime combos. And we were just laying in bed, and she was like, when I was a little girl, and I'm thinking, what was that? And so she really went on to tell me about what she thought when we would go and put flowers on my mom's grave. And so my mom is buried next to this really beautiful oak tree, and then past the oak tree, there's a fence. And so I got to find out that day that my daughter thought that my mom lived on the other side of the fence. And so the whole book is about the other side of the fence and what that looks like, and what grief looks like for a child who feels very, very much bonded to her abuela, even though, she hasn't been here for most of her life.
Well, Deneen said it's coming. It's coming. So we got an exclusive here. That's coming. And a comment was made that your Spanish reading of the book needs to be put on a track, needs to be laid down on a track. So here's a question. Here's a question.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the issue folks have been having with the line Haitian Black on my Dominican back in the book?
I can. There is, contention on the island. There's always been contention on the island, rooted in white supremacy and rooted in anti-Blackness. So I need to go ahead and say that around Haiti and around the Dominican Republic. So for me, it was important it was part of the adult, poem that I wrote, and I felt really driven to keep it in the children's book. Not because the Haitian Black is different than the Dominican Black, right? It wasn't meant in that way, but because we cannot escape our Blackness, period. And certainly for me, it was a nod to my brothers and sisters in Haiti, because we're two sides of the same coin. And so the idea that, we are not, or the idea that they are something else, again, the othering, it was important for me to honor that, and also important for me to honor my roots, right? As I've been doing research and as I've been going through all of the ancestry and, just putting down a lot of information that I didn't get a chance to put down when my mom was alive. I'm finding that we do have roots in Haiti. And so that was also a nod for me, even though I didn't know it at the time, which has been great, because I had I just felt this drive to keep it in there, and I did not know why. And finding out, that my grandmother was, had ties to Haiti, we're trying to figure out if she was either, I think she was born of Haitian parents, but she was born in the Dominican Republic. And so it was important for me to keep that there. And it was important for me because as much as I knew that it might have very visceral responses from people, we need to talk about it. This is the beginning of a conversation. And even though it's a children's book, which is what I keep going back to, it's a children's book, but the conversation, this isn't the end. The book is not the end of the conversation. The book is just the beginning. So I encourage people to look and read up on what that looks like and what those relationships look like. Especially, I think this weekend, there's a lot of, there's a commemoration this weekend going on around the Parsley massacres that happened during the era of Trujillo. And, again, speaking back to all of the atrocities that happened because of anti-Blackness and white supremacy on the island.
Thank you so much. One thing I can speak to, knowing, because I know you personally, is that you are always about keeping it real, authentic, and 100. So thank you. Okay, I think we have another question. What kind of collaboration did you have with Brianna to achieve a realistic representation of the DR in the book?
Okay, this is going to be completely shocking. So I do an IG Live, and I had Brianna on probably maybe 3 weeks ago. That was the very first time that I got to see Brianna face to face. Brianna and I had zero contact during the creation and the illustration of this book. And that's why that's why I have no words, because she read this, and when we were talking about it, she mentioned that she, when Deneen reached out to her, first she thought it was some type of joke, right? She didn't think it was real. And then when she did get the file, and she said that she read the first 4 lines of the poem, and that immediately she had a movie of images playing in her head about what that would look like. And that's why she decided to take the job. And there was nothing there was collaboration obviously with the art director and with Deneen, but between the two of us, we didn't communicate. We touched bases after or in the process on Instagram, but that was the extent of it. Obviously our friendship has grown, and I'm tied to Brianna for the rest of my life, and I am happy about it. But yeah, initially during the process, there was no contact between the author and the illustrator.
Meant to be incredible. Here's another question, and this one is from someone who is 6 years old. A parent says, "My 6-year-old daughter wants you to talk about why you wrote the book in both English and Spanish."
I wrote the book for you. That's who I wrote it for. That's a short answer. I wrote the book because kids need to see themselves. And then I wanted to do the book in Spanish because I wanted kids on the island to be able to read it. It was also to pay homage to my parents, to my mom especially, because I imagined that if, you know, she was still with us, I would be able to give her the book and she would be able to read it, as opposed to me having to translate it, because I was always a translator at home. But it was important for me to keep them separate. A lot of times we see a lot of bilingual books. I used to be a book buyer, and it was, I always had, you know, mixed feelings about seeing a book that was in both English and Spanish. In one sense, I understood it because it was great that we had that. But in another sense, I felt it was really important for the Spanish language to have its own, so people could sit with the words, so people could sit with the drawing, and not have the languages be crowded within one book. I feel sometimes we crowd everything. We want to put everything into one book, and then just, you know, get it out of the door. So I was really, really grateful when I came to the Dean. And, you know, this was after we were already working on the English language, and I came to the Dean and I was like, I have this crazy idea. Can we do this in Spanish? You know, and she said yes. And I'm really grateful that she did, because I feel like there's a different energy. And I also felt it was important for me to do the translation, because it wasn't necessarily a direct translation, you know, of the book. I had to come back and I had to sit with the words and with what I wanted them to mean. And so it's not a direct translation, you know, of what you see in the English version. So Robiaun, this is another incentive for you to learn Spanish.
Why did I know you were going to go there? That's why I said stop. Yes. So I've been working on my Spanish for some decades, but I will get there. So great. There are lots of comments, you know, coming up in response to that question about why you wrote it in Spanish. You know,
Deneen gives an explanation as to so she said, so this is my favorite, you know, I say this all the time, separation of church and state, between the illustrator and, yeah, because we want to make sure that they actually, you know, I think that's probably what's best about it, that this was her vision without ever speaking to me, just reading the words on the page. And I love that, because it's her own, you know, it's a book on its own if you took all the words out, because of what she got out of that and what she put into the drawings and the illustrations.
With the illustrator, yes.
Absolutely.
Well, certainly we're open to any other questions that people may have. Please pop them in the box.
And I love that question by the 6-year-old. That was great.
I know. Who is trilingual?
I will only take questions from children from now
on. Which is incredible. Well, Sili, is there anything that you would like to leave all the viewers with?
No, I am just grateful to Charis for having me here today. You know, I couldn't think of a better place to have. This is my very first virtual event, so I'm really excited, and I am trying to figure out when I can make it up there to see you all. But you know, certainly there's like a link right here. Purchase the book, and we just talked a little bit about it, so they might you all might have some signed, you know, signed books.
Yes. So Celia is going to sign book plates. So we're going to hold, if you order the book today, we're going to hold the orders until we get the book plates so that you get a signed copy. So just know, might be just an extra couple days before we send them out. But if for whatever reason you're like, I don't care, I just need this book in my hot hands right now, you can put that note in your order and we'll just ship it direct. But if you're like, no, I want a signed book, just put that note in your order. There's a little note field. So somebody asked, where do we order? So if you click this teal button, purchase If Dominican Were a Color from Charis Books, that takes you to the English edition. But let me also put the link to the Spanish edition right here. So you're going to click that button if you want the Spanish edition. And we have big stacks of both in store, so they're ready to go. If you are an Agnes Scott person, we're doing porch pickup. All you do is place your order, and it'll be ready. Again, though, if you want a signed copy, just give us a minute, and we'll make sure that you get that book plate. And Cecilia, yes, we want you to come back for your next book. We have a whole special section of our store that we focus on children's emotions, and we really work with a lot of psychological associations around using books as therapeutic tools. So helping children explore hard emotions like grief and things like that. So we think that new book sounds wonderful. So we hope it comes to fruition. And obviously Deneen is one of our all-time favorite folks. So any book Deneen publishes, we're going to hype no matter what. So yeah. And
She's on it.
yeah, and we're here for it. So thank you to Agnes Scott. Thank you to Robiaun for helping make this happen so quickly. It's been a real honor. And the last thing I want to say is we post all of our events with captions on YouTube. So I'll be repackaging this, adding captions, and it'll be available on YouTube. So if you know of other folks who are going to want to watch this, just let us know and we'll make that happen soon.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This has been great. And thank you for letting me read the book in both languages.
Yes, for sure. All right. Until next time, everybody stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.